Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and yes, I know I just recently reviewed one of the later waves of the Mighty Little Biters, but it took me a little bit to actually get a hold of that wave, and because of that, the newest wave is already out, and you can see this wave now features two new figures. There's also a Mosasaurus in this wave, but we already have that Mosasaurus. It's the same one that we had previously. But as far as the new figures go, you can see there is a Dimorphodon and a Ceratosaurus. Really excited for the Ceratosaurus. I do want to give a massive shout out and thank you to Plush Boy Q, who was cool enough to grab these for me again, just like he did with the last wave. These figures are completely non-existent in my area nowadays, so I never have the chance to actually get these unless I reach out to somebody else, and usually Plush Boy Q has them in his area, so again, a massive thank you to him. But you can see the packaging is pretty much the standard. The figures themselves, of course, are sitting out here just like they've been since the Snap Squad days, and then here on the back you can see again that Mosasaurus, which is the same Mosasaurus we had previously. So I'm going to pop them both out of the package and then we'll take a closer look. So starting with the Dimorphodon, you can see the Dimorphodon actually looks pretty cool. I think they did a fairly decent job on the overall design of this one. Kind of looking like a Jurassic World Dimorphodon, but definitely very exaggerated, as these figures usually are. The skin texture looks pretty decent, which you can see. Again, it's maybe a little bit muted compared to what I'm used to with Mattel, but for, you know, stuff like this, like pop-ups and Snap Squads, and then of course the Mighty Little Biters, it's pretty much the standard stuff. We have a gray, like a fairly dark gray for the upper side of the head, and then a light gray here for the lower jaw. That light gray is only in the lower jaw, though, does not run down into the body. So unfortunately, the Mighty Little Biters continue to have very lackluster paintwork, you know. Mattel doesn't put a whole lot when it comes to the colors into these figures, sadly. You can see the eyes are given a yellowish tone and then a nice black pupil. We, of course, are going to have, yeah, there we go, an articulated jaw, which is pretty much how the action feature works. You can see the teeth grow massively here on the inside of the mouth of our very angry Dimorphodon. The teeth are colored with a nice light yellowish tone, and then you have a pinkish tone for the tongue, which is really nicely textured, actually, and then a pink for the rest of the inside of the mouth with a nice gloss coat. It all looks really good. And then when it comes to the eyes, obviously once you open that mouth, it turns into a very angry little biter, and you can see that the eyes now have like a like an orange and then kind of like a pink around the pupil and a very small black pupil with some yellow sort of like blood vessels and stuff in there, making it look like it's very angry, and then it quickly returns back to normal once you let that go. As you move down along the back, you can see like some small ridges following along the back of the neck. There are also a few osteoderms and stuff here popping up. As you move down, though, you actually get a few pycnofibers as you lead further into the back here, kind of, you know, for a little bit. Leading down, actually they start at the bottom of the neck. You can see them starting right there at the bottom of the neck and then leading into the back of our pterosaur. And as you continue to move through, obviously the pterosaur is standing, it is not flying. We can see how the wings are kind of resting right now, and again, the detail of the wings is actually really nice. You can see like the actual skin folding and wrinkling, and the fine detail and texturing of the wings does look really good. We basically have that darker grayish tone for the primary body color, but then here in the wings we have like a dark orange that patterns through, and I think that does look really good. And you can see, of course, the fingers right there. The nails are not painted, but they do have a bit of a gloss coat, which is nice, and you'll see the same thing, I'd imagine, for the feet right there, but you're not really going to be able to get in there to see them because, unfortunately, you know, other than the like neck and jaw, there's no articulation on these guys, so you can't like move the wings out of the way to get a better visual of the feet. You just really cannot do it no matter what you do. But as you lead out there toward the end of the tail, of course you can see that classic trademark tail for the Dimorphodon, which looks pretty decent as well. It's in pretty much the same position on both sides, so you're not going to see much difference from one side to the other, but it is a pretty cool Dimorphodon. Definitely a fun addition to this line. And then we've got the Ceratosaurus. Now this one could have been really cool. It's still really cool, but the lack of patterning moving down along the back is what really takes me out of this one, unfortunately. But when it comes to the head sculpt, it looks really nice. The skin texture is definitely very vibrant. I'd say more vibrant than what we had seen on the Dimorphodon. We do have the horns here for the Ceratosaurus, but unfortunately, there's two horns that just completely got neglected when it comes to paintwork, and we only have the one horn here on the tip of the snout that did get paintwork with a lighter lighter tone. Again, further showing the laziness, or should I say cheapness, of Mattel lately when it comes to their paintwork. We can see the nostrils sculpted out. Again, all sorts of variation to the sizes and style of the scales. You've got the yellow eyes with the black pupil, just like we saw in the Dimorphodon. We have a lighter tone for the lower jaw. And then, of course, we're going to push that forward, get those teeth out here and showing and looking really big. And the teeth are painted with a similar tone of like an off-white bordering on a yellow, but definitely a little bit different from what we saw in the Dimorphodon. A little hard to get in there, but you can see the tongue in there and a nice gloss coat. And again, that same pinkish tone all throughout the inside of the mouth. The eyes on the Ceratosaurus are now a greenish tone with a yellow around the pupil, the black pupil, and then purple kind of blood vessels and stuff in there, giving it the look of being extremely bloodshot, like our Ceratosaurus has not slept in a very long time. As you move up to the top of the head, again, the skin texture continues to look really nice, and as we move into the back of the dinosaur, we start to get that patterning, again, kind of like what you would see on a Jurassic Park 3 Ceratosaurus. As you lead down, you see a little bit of that striping, but it's only 3 stripes in the neck, and then it's gone. Like, that's super, super lazy, because they could have made a really cool figure here when it comes to the coloration. Like, if they had just given us more of that striping down through the body, I feel like it could have been such a massive improvement for this figure. But unfortunately, they chose to go the lazy route and include no coloration at all on the body, because of course you can see that lower jaw is the only area that features that light tone, and then once you lead down, again, it's all just that kind of like reddish tone of the primary body. The skin texture and the sculpt and everything looks pretty decent. You've got some osteoderms on the top of the hip region, or the top of the thigh, I should say. You have the fingers sculpted pretty nicely. The claws, same deal for the toes and the claws down there. They're all sculpted quite nicely. And you've got a little bit of a curve to the tail, which is kind of a cute little curve right there as well. So the sculpt, again, is really nice, but it just would have been nicer if there was a little bit more paintwork to it. And I also just really wish there was more articulation on these guys. Like, at least articulated arms or even articulated legs. Just something, just to give them a little bit more playability. They're still really cool, but you know, I absolutely like them more than the wild pop-ups, but I just feel like there's more that could be done with them. Like, they're not quite utilizing the full potential of these figures, but still a pretty cool Ceratosaurus. So that's pretty much all we need to do when it comes to these guys. There's not a whole lot more that you need to go over. Of course, we know the size of these figures. It's the same the entire way through, so no need to measure, no need to do comparisons or anything like that. 2 really cool new figures added to the line. You know, I remember a time when Mattel would release like 4 brand new figures with every single wave of every single, you know, line that they have, but nowadays it's just like, I don't know what's going on, just lazier and lazier, because not only are we getting even less paintwork than we used to, we get less articulation than we used to, but we also get less figures than we used to. So again, only 2 new ones with this wave, but they are 2 pretty cool ones. The Dimorphodon is okay. It doesn't really look so much like the Dimorphodons do in Jurassic World, but it's fun for what it is, and of course the fact that they're stylized means it's going to look a little bit different. The Ceratosaurus is definitely my favorite of the 2 because I love that species, but they could have done more when it comes to the paintwork of the Ceratosaurus, because it does look super, super naked with the lack of patterning moving through. But it is really fun regardless to have a Ceratosaurus in the Mighty Little Biters line, and the sculpt is pretty decent, so at least that's pretty good. But overall, again, a pretty fun wave of these figures, and, you know, of course it's worth adding to your collection, especially if you've been collecting them the entire time. So if you are interested, my buddy Plush Boy Q found these at his local Meijer store, so if you have one of those near you, check that store, grab them there. If not, you know, maybe eBay or something like that, unfortunately, because I'm not really too sure what all stores even sell these anymore, since no stores in my area do. So hopefully you can grab them and add them to your collection. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.